Scott Morse employs 150 people that make 4 million calls to homeowners every single month for real estate investors. He talks about how he uploads the literature of his favorite sales leaders into a custom ChatGPT and can use that to analyze the calls of his agents so that the coaching isn't him telling them what they're doing wrong, but it's him saying, look, Zig Ziglar would have said it this way. It would have possibly been better said if Jordan Belfort recommended it this way. Why don't you try it on the next call and let me know? So it's really a superpower for a sales manager that's coaching the sales team. Hey, Scott, welcome on the show. I know that you run Lamassu Leads and you guys call, I believe, 4 million phone numbers per month, mostly for real estate investors. Is that right?
Yeah, 100% for the real estate space, primarily single family distressed sellers. I'd say about 90% of our campaigns are that. I do have a mortgage campaign, though, that we launched in November of last year, assisting people who need to capture some of that equity out of their house who don't necessarily want to sell.
Interesting. So that would be like maybe older people, or they could do like a reverse mortgage or just a refinance in general.
You know, I don't know if it's necessarily older people. It's the market that the wholesalers don't hit. So most wholesalers, when we'll pull the data, they'll say, hey, 2017 or older. But there's this other unique gap of people that are like 2019 to 2023 purchases, 2022, where they saw some equity rise, but they got into a situation where they bought kind of at the peak of the market, their finances, their job, and it's like they're distressed, but they have this it shouldn't be. It's a rare form of equity that no one should have that much equity in 3 or 4 years, and it just the light bulb hasn't clicked for them. A lot of times they are in such credit card debt and they're paying out the wazoo, and they just don't even really think like, oh yeah, great, I actually do have $200,000 sitting in this house or 400,000, so we'll help them out with a HELOC or just a global refinance.
Got it. Well, congratulations on opening that new service in the last year. I was looking back at some of your social media highlights. It was only in 2022 that you were saying you call about 2 million numbers per month. So also congratulations on the expansion. And it
Thank
kind
you.
of made me curious, when did you start? Because I know you've been doing like high ticket sales for quite a while. I think you said over 20 years. Was that
Yeah.
always in real estate investing, or where did that start?
No, and I think that's hopefully one of my advantages. I'm really agnostic. I don't really care about real estate. I just care about the mousetrap. And so I have a process that you could insert any product here. You could reach me offline and be like, "Hey, man, dude, I really want to promote this software. I want to promote this book, or I want to promote this." And the processes are stronger than the product. So I stumbled into real estate 4.5, 5 years ago now, and again, it was just somebody was like, hey, man, if you just take your process and insert this wholesale product here, I think like you'll murder this campaign. And it went on its and lived its own life. But I've always been in marketing and high ticket sales, just recently, though, in the REI space.
Got it. So what was really attractive to you about real estate investing once you found it? Because you've really doubled and tripled down.
Yeah. The fracturedness of the individual cowboys and the lack of seeming sales skills down to the local market level, because there wasn't like big national brands. I wasn't competing against anybody on Wall Street per se. There's all these fragmented markets. Nobody really has a cohesive pitch. But the number one thing that sold me, David and Ryan, is I filled out forms on people's websites. And the amount of days it took for people to call me back, I was just like, wait a minute, this is how the competition works? Like, oh, and then nobody had a cohesive pitch. Everybody was just beds, baths, square footage, tactical and analytical, no emotion. And I was like, okay, yeah, I think this is disruptible. I really do. I think there's some room for a heavy hitter or somebody with some experience to come in.
Mm-hmm. So that actually reminds me, in the talk I saw you give last week at Collective Genius, you were really talking about curiosity. You know, if somebody gave you the question of, I forget what it was exactly, but your response was like, well, why? And I think it was actually typically like a tire kicker response you guys were discussing in particular, right? When somebody says, well, I just want an offer. And you kind of were like, well, it's important to ask, well, why is that important? Can you kind of talk about using emotion and curiosity instead of just being so analytical for a moment?
Yeah, I think I learned, again, I high ticket sales for 24 years and like built some really monster companies and like super blessed, super pleased. I say sales changed my life. by far. Like, I'm an advocate for sales more than I am of real estate or marketing or anything else. The art of communication, the power of persuasion. But I learned a long, long time ago, like, people make a decision off of logic, but they stick with that decision because of emotion. And so it's like, it's easy to be a logical salesperson, and then the customer at the end say, thank you so much for the information. We're going to take a couple of days and mull this over. You've been so good. You've been such a nice young man. And it's like, shit. Okay, this has got to be emotional. The logic's already there. And especially with our product, logically, our offer almost never makes sense. Like, we're asking people to sell at a discount because of this other intangible issue. And so let's really focus on the emotional side of it, because if I can get them in that decision-making mode and just ask quality questions. I say this all the time: quality questions lead to quality conversations lead to quality deals. And so it all starts at those questions and just trying to find the emotional aspect of people's hot buttons. It's like most people don't even seek hot buttons, so they don't find their hot button, and then they don't know what to push at the end of the presentation to be able to get them to at least tell you yes or no today. That's the other thing. This industry blows my mind. How many people are like, I got this one. Like, did they sign the contract? No, they said that, but they were interested. And it's just like, just get a no. Stop junking up your pipeline. You'd rather have a no than a maybe.
Talk to me about, sometimes when I see people follow a script, it actually feels unemotional because they get so focused on, well, this is the next question in the script, where I feel like if they were discovering hot buttons, they'd kind of listen in for certain things and say, whoa, like, what was that? Like, tell me more about your mom that was sick, which is not on the script probably. So how do you balance that?
I think about movie producers a lot, and I say, I wonder if they can actually enjoy a movie, because they're probably saying, oh, that camera should have been at this angle, and I can see that wire in the background. And it's the same thing for a high ticket sales. Like, I am so impressed when I hear good sales presentations, because I know that every word was considered before it was said. And I was just listening on satellite radio. I'm driving my parents' car, listening to satellite radio, and it was something. Oh, it was these people who were constantly on radio selling their tax settlement services. And in their commercial, they said, and now, especially with the fact that so many IRS agents have been laid off, which would be like the reason why you shouldn't go with their services, it's even harder than ever to negotiate because there's nobody there to answer the phones. And I was like, wow, look how they just turned that negative into a positive for them. Because so many people are laid off at the IRS, you need our help even more now to be able to negotiate with these people. And so for me, I think it's just that mindset of like, okay, we got to find whatever little thing there, be able to flip it. And I think that for me, being able to witness that and experience that and be able to deploy it into real estate, I don't know, it just seemed like it's a bit of an X factor versus maybe some of the general average median line of people with sales experience.
Would it be fair to say that you give your team a script, but you also encourage and welcome them to take a side path if necessary?
So we call it surfing the wave, but you're always going to the beach, period. And so the reason why I even said that about that commercial, I remember now, is because there's hot bars that I can write that they should use on every single call. Now, they don't have to say them all in order, and maybe they hesitate and do some of these other things, but a commercial was written not by happen chance. It's because these are the words that elicit the most amount of emotion. So I don't think it should be the whole pitch scripted, but I believe in a wireframe that they go through the processes. Here's your warm up. Here's your intro. Here's your discovery. You can't do your discovery until after you've done your warm up. And so I give them more of a wireframe with hot lines throughout than I do an actual verbatim A to Z script.
Ooh, what are some of those hot lines?
Tell me the story about the condition of your property, getting them away from asking questions that aren't feelings questions. How would it make you feel? Asking them to say meaning questions. What would it mean to you? Because it's just so much differently, like just asking somebody, so what do you plan on doing once you move down to the grandkids? How's it going to feel when you're down to the grandkids and you're planning your next day? It's like those nuances create completely different conversations.
You must incorporate this in your training too, because I saw one of your videos. It was one of your agents, and she was just physically like moving while she was on the phone. She's sitting in her chair, right? Her arms are moving, her face is expressive. And I think that was the whole point of your video, was something like, like the emotion. What was the tagline? Do you know exactly what that
Motion creates emotion. Motion
motion
creates
creates
emotion.
emotion?
Yep. And so I want them moving. I want them in it, because what I try to explain to them is the average American is overweight and they're lazy boy, and you just called them. Let's just visualize that. But you're standing on your feet. You're in boxing mode. You're right there. Neurologically, how much more of an advantage do you have over them? You don't have Judge Judy in the background, a little distracting them and stuff. Like, you're dialed in. And if you're anything like me, you might believe in some of the ether, right? And so, like, I just believe that if I'm transmuting good energy, if I got a smile on my face, if I'm moving around, that they can feel that through the phone. Because if I'm laid back like this and my tonality matches this, like, hey, Barbara, I'm just calling in regards to your property on Main Street. It's like, I'm dead in the water right there.
Yeah. There's actually a similarity between several successful people like yourself. And I just read Think and Grow Rich, and that guy analyzed all these millionaires from like the, late 1800s, early 1900s. And when they're talking about, you need to put your goal on paper, and you need to apply emotion when you're kind of speaking about that goal, right? It's like your mind won't cement the concept unless you have emotion behind it. And then also, somebody I learned from on the social media side was Dan Martell. And he's like, you need to do 3 stories a day, but you need to do it like right after you're done working out, because that's when you have a peak of emotion. And it's the emotion that makes people want to listen and remember things. So just something I noticed right
I
there.
love that. Yeah, it's accurate.
So Lamassu, okay, it's been around since 2019, I think. And one of the interesting things I noticed was you're always adding 14 more cubicles, right? So why is it so important that everybody come into a place of work together for you? It seems like, cold calling can be done virtually pretty easily. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people do it that way. I think one of the unique things I've noticed about you is you don't.
Yeah. I'm the only company out there, and it cannibalizes profits. There's no doubt about it. But I can assure you, what I cannibalize in profits, I regain in quality and culture. And maybe I'm just that leader that couldn't pull it out. But I've sold myself to the fact that the culture that I have could not be recreated with people scattered all about at their house. And I can tell you, on the quality of technology that we use on our huddles, I don't see how I could replicate it. And so I'm doing it a bit of a legacy way, but I feel that we're doing it an enterprise way. And that enterprise infrastructure that I've invested in so much money over the years has given us a strategic advantage over everybody else, because we have managers walking behind, we're throwing candies on the floor, we're ringing the gong. I mean, it's a true sales culture where we're trying to push and elevate, and steel sharpens steel. And so I want them to be sitting beside somebody. And the way we structure people in the cubicles, even that's been thought about. Every cubicle says ATM and it has a number on it, because I want them to think, okay, I'm sitting at not a desk, I'm sitting at my ATM. I'm going to insert effort and I'm going to pull out commission checks. And so that's just the mindset that we try to do on the sales floor.
That's so cool. I didn't ever see the ATM logo, but I might put that on my own desk.
Yes, there you
Pretty good
go.
reminder every time you sit down.
Yes.
So, all right, you've got how many people calling now? How many people does it take to call?
We got about
4 million?
150, 160 people total in office.
Wow. Does that require, what's the management structure for 150 people? That's a lot of people.
Yeah. Myself, CEO. We have a COO. We have a CFO. When it comes to the sales floor, which I think would probably be most appropriate for a lot of people watching, it's going to be every 10 to 12 agents have a team lead. And then the team lead reports to a sales director. That sales director reports to me. And I have client success strategists. I have people that interface with the public, but our main workhorses, it's like 10 to 12 people. They're all in the same cubicle pod. There's a desk at the top of that pod looking down. He's assigned to those people on his screen. Only those people are there. He could listen to others, but he's able to chime into any call, walk behind them. He has all their KPIs. They have their own dashboards that they can see how they're competing against each other. And those get streamed on the big TV. So then it's like agent versus agent at this level, team versus team at that level. And so it's just a really competitive, pleasantly competitive environment. But that's how the infrastructure of the sales force.
Got it. That's super interesting. I was curious. You've won the belt at Collective Genius like 3 or 4 times, and it's been multiple times, right?
Twice,
Twice.
twice, twice, twice,
What,
twice.
so, what were those topics? I know one was how you use AI in your business, so we could maybe start
Mhm.
there. If you could maybe tell us some of the highlights from that talk.
Yeah. So what's really weird about going to real estate events, again, because I'd never even been to a mastermind once in my life until 5 years ago. I made all my money doing all this stuff in my own little world. And I go to these events, and the hardest part about these events is people that are of different levels, and people are higher than you, people are lower than you. And it's so hard to communicate and get a message disseminated to everybody. So even when I gave my AI presentation, there were so many people who took that data and either thought it was so tough that they didn't go and try it on their own, or they overcomplicated, et cetera. But it's super simple. All I did is the same thing anybody else here can do, which is I trained a custom GPT. You go to GPT, click custom GPT, create your own. Boom. That means that you control its knowledge base, right? And then I did the simplest of things to my sales styles. I love Zig Ziglar. I love Jordan Belfort. I uploaded his literature to there, all those books into there. I said, hey, use these as reference anytime something comes up outside of my additional training. Uploaded my scripts, my objections and rebuttals, and my wireframes. So all that's in there. And then I just created a scoring structure that was like, hey, how to 1 to 20 on an intro, 1 to 20 on the discovery, 1 to 20 on this. And we just literally created it out. We fine tuned it over a couple of weeks, but you can take any transcript, just drop it in there, and it speaks back to you like Zig Ziglar or Jordan Belfort themselves, where it's giving you feedback. And it's cool because what it does is it takes away the humanness. There's a bit of an ego when you have a quality assurance person and somebody sits in front of you and says, you should have done this better and this better, versus when we get to turn the paper and we're like, hey, this is what the analysis is, and it's always so good and it's always so fair. And so that was probably the biggest takeaway, which is how simple it is to create your own GPT to analyze sales calls.
That's pretty cool. How'd you upload a whole book?
You just go to, like, I went to free PDF books or
Got it.
whatever.com, I Googled and just upload the whole PDF and ask it to digest it.
Man,
That's
I should try that again. I actually tried that early days, and I couldn't get it to remember all my podcast episodes. But it seems like there's definitely been some advancement since then. What was the other topic that you had spoken about and won the belt?
Yeah, the other topic was just sales in general. It was a much more robust, detailed version of what you saw the other day. And it was really designed to teach people about, like, there's sales axioms or truths that will exist before I was here, and they'll exist after I was here. And just helping people understand through stories some of the greatest sales lessons that I've learned and how to apply it to real estate. Because again, I think that when you don't build emotion, you end up overpaying or not justifying your price. And then one of
Mhm.
those two things will happen. And you need to have sales. We're not talking about lying. We're talking about, I need to be able to present the value in my product to a degree that somebody is willing to exchange equity for that value. That's it. This is how our business works. You're exchanging equity for value. But if I don't build up enough value or show you the value, then how can I expect you to exchange from me equity?
Hey,
Hmm.
Scott, I've got a question that I want to dive into that specifically because, and this is a narrative that maybe I have,
Sure.
but tell me I'm wrong. I always feel like with the push to get to an emotion with a seller or to build an emotion with the seller, it takes a lot of time. And sometimes you're digging into stuff that's just not even close to where we're at with the house. And so my and this is just me, but for
Sure.
me, I try to stay away from it. I just try to, when we've connected to the point that you're calling me about needing to sell your house, I don't ask why. I don't ask, tell me about
Really?
this or that. I just go straight to, how much are you needing for the house? Why is that amount? I'll ask, why do you need that amount? Is there another loan that you're trying to clear? Is there a
Sure.
mortgage here? But I never go to the emotion. I just stay on, I guess you can say, stay on the business of,
Yeah.
why am I here? And that has always worked for me. And people have asked many times, like, what's something that you can, and I've just always stayed away from the emotional because I just feel like that's going to a point that,
You don't want to waste time
yeah, I don't
before
want to
you
waste
right.
the time. I want to get
What you're saying?
to I want to get to the point of, you want to sell your house, here's what I can pay. Is that help? Am
Yeah.
I wrong on that? Like, tell me,
Um,
coach me.
I would have to. It's not that you're wrong. It's just that it's a fundamental belief by now. Your hunch became a practice. Your practice became a habit. Your habit is now a belief. It would be tough to flip you. I would want to catch you 7 years ago.
Right.
And then I would start with the phrase, it takes time to take homes. And so that trains me that, like, hey, I'm going to take time. I am going to take time, but I'm going to be remunerated on the back end better by having a cleaner pipeline. And then in theory and practice, more deals. Right. And I think the part of it is, some of it is the salesperson for you, the uncomfortability of having those conversations, because it is uncomfortable when somebody says, yeah, actually my daughter's a crackhead, and, or she overdosed in the house 4 months ago and blah, blah, blah. But there is such a level of truth, because what you talked about in the beginning was like rapport. Yeah, like I don't want to talk about how much you love baseball and shit, but I do want to talk about your true pain points that's causing you to have a price and understand. And so I just think the level of truth that you get once you've broken that ego shield right here, and it doesn't take long. You don't have to marinate forever. Ask them, when was the last time you made love to your husband? Like, we're not going that far.
Right.
But there is a certain level of truth where they can just be like, you know what, we're about to lose our house. That's what's going on. And so I think once it's just as comfortable or as commonplace as not asking for it, it almost makes it more enjoyable, because you get to hear a little bit more, and you go home to your wife and you're like, you should, this story, like, we helped the hell out of this lady. Like, you've probably saved some lives about things you're just not aware of, which make great third party stories for the next person or whatever it may be. So it's maybe conceptual, but I definitely believe I've had some customers tell me some crazy things, and we've laughed over some crazy things, and they've cried over some crazy things. And I'd rather go for that. I always say you lose more deals by not being aggressive enough than you'll ever lose by being too aggressive. So my default is, let's dig in.
Yeah, last week I went on a sales appointment, and my typical approach towards it, I stayed true to myself. So I just was asking the guy, I'm like, do you have a price point in mind? And he gave me the 30 to 35. And I just are you open to a number under that? And didn't dig in, didn't ask, but he's like, yeah, I mean, we can talk about it. And I threw out the original number of 20,000, and he got so mad that he's just like, F you, and started walking away. And I knew that I struck a chord. So I was like, okay, now's a chance that I'm going to get a little personal with him. And I stopped him. I said, hey, I don't want to offend you. And I know that I've offended you. Can you tell me a little bit, like, can you give me, I asked you what you were wanting, and you gave me a 30 to 35. I'm here. It's not that I'm here because I'm trying to take you. I'm here because I'm running numbers, and I'm trying to analyze to make this deal work. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're there, so that I can see if there's a way for me to get there? And come to find out, he had 2 loans on this house. His wife passed away like a month and a half ago, and left him with, he was like, this was my retirement. This was what I was supposed to retire and live happily ever after on. Now my wife passed away. I have 2 loans on here. I have to get 30,000, or I have no way to close this deal. I have no way to do this. And so that was the moment I'm like, maybe I should implement a little bit, but I'm like, I don't know.
You know, Ryan, I have a philosophy. I started training these kids at scale, because they kind of like, some of it's for these kids, like, they know that the customer they're talking to is richer than them. You know, they're in their 20s, customers in their 60s. There's like, oh my God, I'm talking about selling their biggest asset. It's not an imposter syndrome. They're just a little intimidated. But I say, talk to them like they're your aunt.
Yeah.
Like, you talk to your aunt and uncle different than you do your parents, and different than you do a person on the street. You show them a certain level of respect, but you can still have real conversations with them. And if you hadn't seen your aunt forever, and this is what I hate about some people in sales, and let's just say that was my uncle, and he's like, I hadn't seen him forever. He's like, yeah, you know, Stacy, my wife, or your aunt, she passed away 2 years ago. I wouldn't just let that slide.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and there's so many people who they find out through dumb discovery, oh yeah, my spouse passed away, or I just retired. Give him his flowers. Let's talk about, dude, what'd you retire from? How did you enjoy that? Like just a human to human contact for a second that says we can be humans and do business. I don't want to go down this fairy tale path going on to 20 years of years history, but so many times people don't actively listen and they
Yeah.
get a gem like that. It's like my spouse passed away. It's like, how many years were you married, brother? How old were the kids when she passed away? My God, dude, my heart goes out for you. You know, those types of genuine conversations, if we can get more of that in the industry, they'll just close more deals.
Yeah.
Scott, I've got to ask. There's a lot of marketing strategies in real estate, right? You could do pay-per-click, you could do direct mail, you could do texting, you could do calling. Did you decide to build a cold calling company? Because that is what Jordan Belfort did.
No, dude, we do PPC. And
You do?
so,
I didn't know that.
yeah. So we do PPC as well too. And actually I made all my really big money doing mainly PPC and radio and a different channel before I got into your guys, or a different industry before I got into your guys. And so I really love PPC. I love it a lot, but it's one of the legs to the stool. And so I don't think anybody should really just be necessarily one marketing channel. If you have the capital and you're successful in this space, you should diversify a little bit, because you're going to get people on different channels you just can't get. And so I love PPC and I love outbound if it's done in a quality. And that was the thing, is like when I first outsourced cold calling, this is not my intentions. I just outsourced to some people who said they were in Costa Rica that ended up being in Egypt. I was like, oh, you mother. And so after I found out that, and I started listening to these people, I was like, dude, I can't take my closers off of a Google lead to talk to these. I can't. And so I was like, dude, I'll just start my own, just for my own guys. We'll just rock and roll. And I knew that there was a way where I could create PPC quality leads on outbound. It wouldn't be the same volume as everybody else, but I don't need more leads. I just need longer conversations. So less leads, longer conversations from outbound. And so I think it's just one of the legs to your stool of any good real estate investment company.
Interesting. You strike me as somebody who's well, obviously been very successful. At this point in your career, what's the big goal with it for you to continue expanding? Is there a big goal, or do you just like the game? You just like new challenges?
You know, somebody said it to me the other day when I tried to articulate that question. He said, Scott, you're in the impact stage of your life. I said, yeah, I get it. And so I have 100 and some kids that they feed their family because of me. Some of these kids take care of their whole entire family. These kids are being taught such amazing resources to be able to buy and sell real estate remotely from other parts of the world. Like, it's super cool. And I just feel blessed at this stage to have a mousetrap that I enjoy, that's profitable, that allows me to make a really good impact on a good group of people. I don't know what the long-term play is per se. I like real estate. I like the mortgage side of the real estate. The thing I don't like about your guys' industry in general compared is there is a lot of volatility to it. It's not just this thing. Like when I first got in the first few years, it was just up and to the right. And then all of a sudden, all these Amazon kids started getting into the space, and just all these crypto kids. I mean, it was a shit show for a while. I just couldn't understand what was going on. It was my first exposed to this industry. But I think with what we've learned from data, I know which lists are performing the best for almost any real estate campaign nationwide, every market out there. So long term, I'm sure we'll focus on real estate data and stay somewhat in the lead gen, but probably expand out.
What does it feel like when one of your so speaking kids ends up closing a deal and pulls some money out of the ATM?
Or it feels so great. They send me pictures of their car. They send me pictures of their moto. You know what I mean? Like when a kid goes and gets a car and it's got a red bow on it, and he sends you a photo and he's like, yo, boss, think this is, and it's not to me. I was the soil that allowed that tree to grow. That's it. I'm just better soil. That kid had it. He's the man, she's the woman. Like, but it's super cool when they're buying cars or getting their first apartments. One of my COO, she's in Bogota right now, and she's going to a big concert. She's going to have a great week. She's going to the U.S. Embassy to get some paperwork to be able to do something in the United States with us. And so it's like all these cool things happen. So it feels great, man. Honestly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Where's the best place for people to reach out to you? Is your Instagram the best place?
Yeah, LamassuLeads.com, and then Scott Morse REI on Instagram, or Scott Morse on Instagram. Either one of them go to me. And the reason why I want them to check it out is because it's a real deal operation. And I think that's missing in this space. There's a lot of lead providers out there, even that are quote unquote competitors of ours. But I think when you see ours, you see the authenticity and you see how much we've invested into the infrastructure and how much we believe in quality. I'm for sure tried to be the Rolls Royce of this outbound lead generation space, which means the highest quality. I'm not going to be the cheapest, but I want to be the thing where your closers are like, okay, TV lead, cool. Lamassu lead, cool. People, I don't want them to ever think of it as something different than the best of the best.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your time with us today, Scott. It was
Thank you, brother.
Great to see you.
Hey, Scott, one more question from another 2-time belt winner.
Ryan did win the belt.
I did. Twice back to back.
Bam.
This has nothing to do with the belt, but Lamassu. How did you come up with the name of that?
Do you guys know what the logo looks like? People have accused me of this.
It's a lion. It looks like Jordan. It looks like the Wolf of Wall Street.
The Stratton Oakmont. And so, except ours has lion wings on it. So that's a thing. But so Lamassu, man, this is my last business. Every business I've had, it's always had a mascot. I believe every company should have a mascot. I got a whole pitch deck I could give you on that. I would just want people to rally behind it. And so I said, okay, my last business had a lion as a mascot. The one prior to that had an eagle. When is the first time ever in human history that a lion and an eagle were together?
Oh.
And it goes back to modern day Iraq, which was then called Assyria, but it was called a Lamassu. It was the very first time. It was a protection deity. And I said, you know what? We're going to come here. We're going to protect these kids. We're going to set up something. And then my pitch to these kids, every kid knows, hey, we're not hyenas. We're not laughing. We're not waiting for scraps. We're lions. We're the kings of the jungle. We kill what we eat. And we're not ducks. We're eagles. We're not waiting for breadcrumbs. We're not flying low. If somebody else sees us up there, they're an eagle. So like they know the lion and eagle, baby, equals a Lamassu.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Now I know.
Where does the word Lamassu? You said it is a Lamassu, like
if you type in the word like Lamassu, you'll see it was a god or a deity. You do these huge statues in front of like the cities back in Iraq, which then was called Assyria, and they were just there to protect. It's a protection god from way back in the day, and so that's what a Lamassu technically is.
I'm glad you asked, Ryan. I'm going to look that up.
David, what would be your mascot if you had to pick one?
Like me personally, we had the Deal bot at DealMachine for a while, but he's no more. We have no mascot, so we'll need to check Scott's presentation out.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much
Scott.
for the opportunity to come in here and shoot the shit with you.
Yeah, thanks for the inspiration and also sage advice on the sales front. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, guys. All right, have a kick-ass day. Talk to you.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.